You see that? Apparently, the
Fixed.
gods got
The
angry at me.
recording has stopped.
But okay, we're back. So Avram, Tarek turns to Avram and says, what has happened here?" So Avram, with this beatific smile on his face, says, "The idols fought. They got into a fight." What? What do you mean the idols got into a fight? Well, somebody came in and wanted to bring one of the brought a whole beautiful platter of food as an offering to one of the idols and put it down in front of the idol. But another idol was very jealous of the offering. It wanted the offering. So it came and it smashed, just like Cain came and smashed Hevel, this idol came and smashed the other idol, took away its offering. But then another idol said, "Hey, I want it." And it came and it smashed that one. And before you knew it, they're all fighting and smashing with each other. Only the biggest idol here, the most powerful of the idols, survived. Is everybody still here? I'm saying my screen is still. Everybody hear me?
I can hear
Does
you.
everybody hear me?
Yes.
I know. Am I cutting in and out over here?
You
Yes.
might
Yes.
you might
Okay,
want to
switch my connection.
turn off your video. It might be a bandwidth issue on your end, not our end. So turn off your video.
Right. Or I may switch to what's it called? I may switch to a new um just a different Wi-Fi connection. Um, Give me one moment. So either way, so so it says that this is what happened. All the idols got into big melee, smashed each other, and only the biggest idol survived. Huh? How do you? I tried to stop them, but they just went at it, and it was beyond my ability. I mean, they're gods. Gods are fighting, but I'm going to mix in. So Tarek says, "What kind of bubba mice are you trying to sell? These idols can't do anything." So Avraham uses a line that we have since in history has become immortalized in history. He says, "Halavai, if only
If
your
only.
ears would hear what your mouth just said." Right? That's where the quote comes from. If only your ears heard what your mouth just said. At which point Terach said, "Enough with you." He drags this troublemaker to Nimrod, and so the epic showdown that has Nimrod throw him into a fiery furnace. We'll see if your God can save you now, Avram. And sure enough, God does, right? And at that moment, so begins Avram's public career. And it goes, and the Rambam, who does not engage in exaggeration, not in his Mishnah Torah at least. Hyperbole or exaggeration is not the Maimonides' approach to his legal work. But he says, as a matter of historical fact, Abraham succeeded in bringing tens of thousands to monotheism, built a movement and a following of tens of thousands. Yes, Paula.
So maybe this answers your first question. Why 75? And Hashem tried with Adam, Harishon. It didn't work out. He tried with Noah. It didn't work out. He wanted to give a little bit of time to test the kid who's been tested many times. And this is the partner. He found the partner in Abraham.
And I will take that. In other words, what Paula you're saying is why does because the next question, Paula. By the way, for those that are taking the class for the first time, get to know Paula is always one step ahead of the class. It's just a testament to her. She's on it. She's always on it. So my next question that Paula was right there was a two-part question, and Paula already gave the answer to one of the two parts. Was God first moment of revelation to Avram is at 75. All this that we talked about is done without even God giving Avram divine validation, ever telling him you're right. At no point in all this saga, and Avram going and taking this message out on the road with him, it's all based on Avram's pure conviction that he is right and that he's a good. God has not revealed himself yet to Avram. It's a remarkable thing. He risks his life. He takes this on the road. He's this compelling and teaching everybody about a God that had not yet revealed himself to Avram. God only does 75 years in. Question number one, why did God wait so long? Question number two is the Torah opens up on Avram's career, starts to tell us about Avram's life only at that moment of the first revelation, the first 75 years. And all that we just shared, all these incredibly inspiring and amazing elements of Avram are not in the Torah. And the first thing that God says to Avram, by the way, is not, Abraham, you are right, and here is the blessing and the benefit of being right, of the fact that you are my guy, and you've been doing this for 75 years completely on your own, risking your own life and committing to this, etc., etc. Your reward shall be. No. God says, he says, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, the very first words that Avram hears from God is, go.
Get out of here.
Leave. Everything that your comfort zone, everything that you're familiar with. Right? Right? Leave your land, your birthplace, the house of your father. And where you're going to go, I'll tell you. I'll get to it. I'll let you know sometime in the future. Right? That's where the Torah starts Avram's story. Right? Now, I left out a key word there. When I said go, that's not how God said it, actually. God did not say Lech. What did God say?
Lech Lecha.
Lech Lecha. Go, literally translated to yourself. Or it could be translated go for yourself. So much to discuss on that. But the first question, why did God wait for 75? Didn't Avram deserve a little bit of, a little indication? So I noticed Sherry's here. Sherry Friedman, by the way, gets credit for being hosting the first iteration of this weekly Torah class. Right, Sherry? So this is coming full circle. You sat on your couch with your, and part of the class were a whole bunch of great women and two great dogs. They were there every week, right?
I think we did it for a couple of cycles, not just one.
Yes, exactly right. We did a multiple cycles of it. And I remember somebody, I remember who it was, I think it was a Berman, said something very profound here that I've since incorporated when I talk about this. I said, the God did not talk to Avram till he was 75 years old. She begged to differ. Because she says, God talks to me every day. And my first thought was like, oh boy, this is an eccentric one. Right? Here's God speaking to her every day, but then she explained herself.
Nice study.
All of nature and all the things that occur and the birds chirping, whatever, that's God talking. That's God talking. Who saw it that way? King David saw it that way. The Kabbalists love numbers, right? Because in numbers they see God. They see the patterns of God in numbers. That this number always means that number means that. They love numbers. The number 3, the number 7 means that, all that, et cetera, et cetera. It's not because numbers are any more divine than anything else. It's just numbers are absolute. It's very easy to see patterns in numbers. If you are very good, if you're mathematically inclined, and so you look around and you're noticing numbers about things, right? Just in physics and in astronomy, whatever it is, you start picking up on numbers. You start picking up on patterns, and when you pick on the patterns, you start to see God's signature in reality. King David was not a numbers guy. To him, he didn't need the absolutes of numbers. He picked up God, the frequency of God in the symphony of the world. in the chorus of the world, in the croak of the frog, in the chirp of the bird, in the babbling of a brook, in the sun rising in the east and setting in the west every single day. In these things, he saw God. God was talking to him. Avram had the conviction that he was right, not because it was based on a hunch or an intellectual understanding. He heard God every day. He heard God, saw God. It was with absolute conviction, not just an intellectual conviction, a visceral experience of reality that told him everything that he was seeing was God talking. And that's part of it. We don't have to have the prophecy. We don't have to have God say, "Hello, Chaim, how are you?" And this is, I think, one of the key points. If Avram was able to live alongside God for 75 years without ever God saying, "Hello, Avram," that's already a very important message and lesson to each of us. Do we understand this? If you asked Avram when's the first time God talked to him, he wouldn't say 75. What would he say? At 3. 3 years old was the first time that God talked to Avram.
See, what's extraordinary to me is there was no Torah then, in the big sense. I can say to you, every time I open up Chumash, God is speaking to me. But Abraham didn't have that. We say
because there's multiple there's multiple flavors to God talking to us. Because something did happen at 875. Something seminal did happen. God was talking to Avram from the age of 3, but something happened at 75 when Vayomer Hashem el Avram. And perhaps this is the point, because it leads into the second. So the other answer that Paul says is that God, on the other hand, was waiting to see, or more importantly, testing, right? We know that Avram tested Avraham a lot, a total of 10 official tests, right? 10 ways that Hashem tested Avram. Because he was going to be the progenitor of this entire of the catalytic engines of reality of humanity, right? The Ner Le'umim, the light unto nations, the chosen people, the Atav Rechatanu, the ones that God is going to entrust with making sure this, right? And as Paula pointed out, candidate number 1 and candidate number 2 were disappointments in their way. Candidate number 3, Hashem puts through the ringer, as by the way he then does to Moshe Rabbeinu, and by the way, as he kind of does to all of us. Right? It's never been easy to be a Jew. Right? It's never been easy. That's not what the job. That's when that job description showed up on the message board. Right? It didn't say easy life. Pleasant work conditions. No, that's not what it's. What the job application did not include that message. And that's part of it. Part of it is also to say to all of us, are you going to be true in your convictions when you have to go through 75 years without, in a sense, God, quote unquote, holding your hand?
It becomes a much bigger question.
And it's tougher. Emunah, faith and trust in God, is not when God is right there. Then you don't need faith and trust. A nace, a miracle, means in Hebrew a signpost. When it's there, it's obvious and you can't ignore it. The rest of the time, God is just as much there. But you have to know how to look. It's kind of up to you to tune into that frequency. Right? It's not what they call it, an all-frequency bulletin. This is where you've got to tune into the frequency. Avram was tuned into that frequency for 75 years because he chose to be, because he committed to be. Only at 75 did God then give the broadcast, the all frequency broadcast, as it were. My point being that all of this is very important information, important messages to all of us, right? That there are going to be times where you're going to go for vast stretches, and you're not going to see God's apparent hand. And at that point, it's going to be your emunah, your faith and your trust in that which you know is absolutely the reality of things to carry you through. You will be thrown in a fiery furnace without hearing the voice of God, and you know that this is still the path and this is still the journey. So Avram was already teaching us lessons even before we get to know him, by dint of the fact that he's doing whatever he's doing, and the story really opens up with him at age 75. Now comes the next question. The next question is, why isn't any of this in the Torah? Forget the fact that God doesn't talk to Avram. We don't talk to Avram till he's 75. Or we don't hear from him till he's 75. The story doesn't open up till this moment of Lech Lecha. All this is gleaned from the Midrash, from the Talmud, from the history, from other works of scripture, etc. Abraham's whole story is not, the first 75 years of his life are not in the Torah. What's the message and lesson in that? Why does the Torah choose to open up in year 75 of Avram's life?
So if you think about the end of this week's Parsha, what happens is the circumcision. Abraham is giving up something of himself for the partnership. It wasn't just a one-way contract. Maybe, to answer your question, this being hidden makes us go through the process of revealing all of this. That's our part of the contract, you know? We are giving our intellect, our soul, our heart over to understanding this, to making it ourselves. Just a thought.
Couldn't you make an argument that Avram was already doing that by willingly turning his back on his family's philosophy, defying his father, being willing to be thrown into a fiery furnace? Isn't this all his already investment in the partnership and conviction, and taking it and doing ultimately the mission of God, the mission that he does continue all the rest of, he's already started. In other words, when God comes and says, go out there, and share it, Avram could say, yeah, God, I've been doing it for 75 years already. I've been on this for a while. So I want to say that you're not wrong. Of course, all of this is, but all of this, the argument could be claiming that he's been doing it to a certain degree. He's been holding up his end of the relationship. This is almost the reverse of what's been happening till now. Avram's end of the relationship, he's already been doing. This is the first moment that God joins in a sense, in official. God enters the chat as it is. Let me explain. What defines a Jew? A person of conviction, a person who pursues truth despite it all, a person who tries to make the world a better place.
Or a person
That's
who was
everybody.
born of a Jewish mother.
But I'm talking about philosophically, right?
Okay.
What makes Avram the first Jew? All these qualities are what ultimately, and this is an important aspect of it. This is key. All these things are things that we hope for all of humanity. We hope to model it for all of humanity, but all humanity should be in the pursuit of the truth. There should be in pursuit of being self-betterment, the pursuit of making the world a better place, etc., etc. So in what way does Avram stand out from any righteous person among the nations? And the answer is because he was commanded to be the first Jew. By who? By God. Where? Which moment? Now. What made him the first Jew was that God appointed him to be so. Right where? Right here. Now, God, his bona fides were the first 75 years of his life. That's why God chose him. But when did he become the first Jew? When he discovered God by the age of 3? When he stood for his convictions, no, those were all the things that helped the decision-making process. He became the first Jew when God made him the first Jew. That's why we call ourselves what? The chosen nation. Well, we don't call ourselves, actually, the world calls us the chosen nation. Chosen by who? By God. This moment where God declares, Vayomer Hashem el Avram, Lech Lecha, go on my mission, go on my journey, the journey that I will show you, the journey that I will take. That's when the story opens up about the first Jew. Understand that. Understand that being a Jew is not being a great guy. One that is conviction for the truth. And to a certain degree, this is important. There's going to be an important distinction. Because being righteous does not mean being Jewish, and being Jewish does not mean being righteous. Because you can be righteous without being Jewish. And unfortunately, we know there are Jews that are not that righteous. So being Jewish is not synonymous with being righteous. Being Jewish is not synonymous with being a believer in God. Every single human being should be a believer in God and follow the 7 Noahide laws, etc. What it means to be Jewish means who gets to decide who's Jewish? God gets to. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. When God came and officially chose Avram, that's the moment the story starts of Avram's Jewish mission. The Torah is what defines us as a Jew. And our commitment and relationship with the Torah is what defines us as a Jew, which is why our conversion to Judaism is reliant on your commitment to Torah. This is the key point. We waited for 75 years because until God declares, Avram, you're my guy, Avram is a great special person and deserving of the role, but has not been given the role until God goes and gives it to him. That's the partnership again. We have to do our part, but we have to realize we do our part with the great silent partner. It's a partnership. It's not just me. It's not me just doing a thing. Too many people make Judaism theirs and forget that Judaism is God's. It's a wonderful thing that they're making Judaism theirs. A wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. Take ownership of your Judaism without a doubt. But Judaism without Torah is not Judaism. Judaism without God and his directives is not Judaism. Avram was not the first Jew until God gave him the first directive as a Jew. That's when he became a Jew. He was a great, righteous person up until that point, but he was the first Jew, not when he recognized God. We hope that for all of humanity. Not when he stood for truth. We hope that for all of humanity. Not when he was a righteous person. We hope that for all of humanity. When God gave him the first directive as a Jew is when he became the Jew. And then what was his first? Yes.
But God gave Adam a directive also, not to eat from something. Why is
Correct.
it different?
Because God gives directives to all of humanity. But he gave
So
Avram.
then why is this so special?
Not so special in the fact that in it we are the only ones that have a relationship with God. No, everybody has a relationship with God. And God has spoken to many others and speaks to many others. We said God speaks to everybody. Ata v'chatanu means that he chose us for a specific purpose. And when he commanded Avram that you and your children will fulfill this particular purpose, that mission, as defined by Avram and defined in the Torah, is what made them a Jew. That's my point. Being righteous and having a relationship with God is not exclusive to the Jewish people. Being Jewish is exclusive to the Jewish people. Tikkun Olam is not a Jewish thing. It's a world thing. With all due respect. That is a world thing. What is specific to Jew, the way you manifest your Judaism is by following the directives that God gave to the Jewish people, the Torah and the mitzvot, and it begins here. When God says to Avram, I have a specific mission for you. I'm going to send you to a specific place. And you have to leave your old life behind. His whole life he was doing pretty darn good. It wasn't that I am now going to make you righteous. You're already righteous. It's not like now you're going to believe in God. You already believe in God. But now I have a specific mission and role for you to play in humanity. And I'm going to give you specific directives. And it's going to be not just a general conviction and commitment to serve God, to serve truth, to make the world a better place. It's going to have specific things. And this is what's going to mean to be Jewish. It's going to include prayer. It's going to include holidays. It's going to include and we said that Avram kimat kol haTorah kula ad shelo nitna. So the first point is, again, without getting too caught up in the weeds of the specificities, but to understand the principal point here. Principal point is that Avraham's story in the Torah, not Avram's story as a person, but Avram's story in the Torah begins when God declares Avram, not that you're the most righteous person, not that you're all that's already happened for the past 75 years. But because you are the most righteous, because you're whatever it is, I'm giving you the specific task, and your story of the Jewish as a Jew begins at 75. And by the way, it begins at 75, but it kind of really arrives at its culmination at the end of the 75. What happens at the end of this parsha?
The Brit.
The Brit Milah. The Brit Milah. So this is the parsha where Avram becomes the first Jew, where a very righteous man, a man with conviction or whatever it is, takes a next step, becomes the first Jew, and is given a set of directives that will be passed down from to him to his children's children, all the way through history. And that's what we see. Avram's story is not just of a righteous person trying to make the world a better place. Avram's story is that he has a unique relationship with God with a unique set of directives, and he follows through, and he follows through God's mitzvot. It is the parsha that tells us that what does it mean to be a Jew? To be a Jew means to follow the Torah. That's what it means. It means to follow the Torah to the best of our ability. None of us are perfect. Not even Avram was perfect. But we have our identity. We have our identity. Our identity is the ones chosen to follow the Torah and its directives. And that story opened up at Avram when he was 75. Now, let's look at some things in the few minutes that we have here. Some very fascinating things from this book. Anybody noticed that the idea of Lech Lecha, if it was just a physical journey, if all it was God telling him, Avram, leave Haran and go to the land of Canaan, then it would be saying it, hi, Roger, it would be saying it backwards. It says, Lech Lecha me artzecha, mi moladetcha, mi beit avicha, right? Now, if I'm heading out on a journey, let's say I'm going from here to New York, right? I first leave my house, then I leave Bethesda, then I leave Maryland, right? He's saying it in the opposite way. Mi artzecha, from your whole land, mi boladetcha, from your birthplace, let's say neighborhood, mi beit avicha, from the actual house of your father. Shouldn't it have said, leave the house of your father, and not only the house of your father, but your neighborhood, and not only your neighborhood, but the whole country.
And it would have only said Lech, and not Lech Lecha.
So we're understanding that the journey is a different journey here. He's asking Avram to journey, to go on a philosophical journey. The easiest thing to let go of is the culture, right? Even nowadays, many Americans are don't even consider themselves Americans, right? even as they live in America. That's an easy thing in a sense to cast off. Artsacha, your land, right? Right? Many people, God forbid, living here in the Washington area are somehow Yankees fans, right? Terrible, I know, right? They've cast off, the responsibilities of their lands, their responsibilities to be ever suffering Washington sports fans, right? And they've cast that off in favor of some other of another land. So Artsacha is not hard. What's harder is Moladatcha, it's your upbringing. Not only the culture that surrounds you, but the way you were brought up. And Mibeit Avicha means the identity that you were born into. El Ha'aretz Asharaka, you're going to go and become something entirely new. Every single one of us, this is being told to. Every single one of us says, who are you? You are not the product of your culture. You're not the product of your upbringing. You're not even the product of what you were born into. Rather, El Ha'aretz Asher Ar'eka. You will be what I, God, will says. I'll tell you, this is the partnership. Again, the partnership. I need you to be something, but it's going to be something that is going to be defined by me, by the Torah. Beautifully put. This is also here. It's in this from Rabbi Mordechai Cohen of Tzfat. Is a quote from the Zohar. It says this is also being told to every single soul. It's being told to a soul in the reverse. Where's the soul's land? Where's the soul's birthplace? Where's the soul? Who's the soul's father? God, heaven. The soul's journey. God is not telling them leave the corrupt place of your birth. Telling the soul leave the pure place of heaven and your proximity to me. God says, and go to the land that I will show you. Right? That's a real test. That's a real journey. Al karchach atachai, right? Against your will you are born. Every soul has to go to a journey where it has to leave heaven, right? Leave its point of origin, leave the proximity to God, and go off to the land that God will show. And yet, God says to this soul, what's the soul afraid of? The soul says, if I go there, I lose my connection to you. I lose my entire identity. I lose everything that I am. All I am is an extension of you, God. Right now, I am close to you. Right now, I'm in heaven. In heaven is where I could be the most soul, right? If a soul is spirituality, then I am at my most soul here in heaven. To which God says to the neshama, Lech, Licha. Actually, no. You are not at your most you, even as a soul, when you're in heaven. Do you know where you'll be at the most you?
On earth?
When you will go down there into the world. Go to yourself. You know why? Because the soul in heaven, God turns to the soul and says, in heaven, you're not you, you're me. A sun ray in the sun is not a sun ray, it's the sun. God says, you're not you, you're me. You have the power. I'm going to give you an ability to be an extension out there and make something new to push the boundaries, to explore, to become what you can uniquely become, which is an extension of me in that place. But that will not be realized unless you go on that journey. Every parent tells this to a child, right? The child says, I don't want to go. My whole identity till now has been wrapped up with you, we say to our parents. I feel the most me when I'm around you. And what does every parent say when they boot the child out of the nest?
I'll be with you.
But they also say, you're not you. You're not really you. You're in my proximity. So who are you really? You're still just me. You're an extension of me. Your value is what you have is what the things that I can get you. Your decisions are not decisions you made alone, decisions influenced by me. Go out and be you, which will turn out to be a beautiful extension of everything I've shown you, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not that you're separating yourself. You're pushing the horizons. You're going to you, and it will be a blessing. Because you're not going without me. But that's part of the partnership. You will not be able to discover yourself unless you go out for yourself with me. This is Avram, the first message to a human being, to Avram as the first Jew, is be willing to go on the journey, because my mission for you is to change the status quo. Angels want to stay in heaven, and angels wanted to keep the Torah in heaven because the angels want to maintain the status quo. And God says, I have an entirely different mission for humanity, and I have an entirely different mission for the Jewish people that will be the light unto nations. Is to change the status quo. Is to know that to be something identifiable with the divine, with God, doesn't mean that you can't journey out there, that you have to stay in heaven in order to be holy. Holiness can be found in Bethesda, Maryland.
No, on some
Holiness can be
streets.
found in Las Vegas. What?
On some streets.
But that's the point. Go out and be my ambassador. Go out there and take me with you, says God. Don't just find me here where I already am. Find me where I could be. Asher Areka. I will show you how that could be the Eretz. God's talking to the neshama. You gotta, right? God comes over to each soul and says, hey guys, time to get out of the basement. Right? And go out. But the world is dark. Al karchat atachai. Right? We know this. A soul doesn't originally want to leave heaven. Tachat kisei hakavod. Right? Where are the souls? They're quite literally in the basement. Right? They're in the basement. They're under the throne, God's throne. They're living in the basement. God goes down. He says, okay, guys, time to get up and go. Right? Go to the land, and I will show you. I will be there. And those that will be blessed by you or will bless you will be blessed. Those that will curse you will be cursed. I'm going to be there. Trust me. But the journey is yours to take because it's your journey. Because there's a partnership here. There's a partnership here that cannot happen if you're staying right here. I don't need you here. I need you there. You're not a partner here if you're staying in the central office. I need you out there. And you got to trust that I'm going to take care of you. You got to trust in me as much as I trust in you. I trust you to take my name and go out there. And I trust that you will not lose yourself. You got to trust me that I am correct in this trust. A parent turning to a child and saying, leave, is not being callous or cold. The opposite. They're being very, very trusting. I trust that you can do it. I can trust that you can handle it. I trust that at this moment you can go out there and you will not lose your integrity and you will not lose your ability, et cetera, et cetera. You can face the world and win. And in a way that I will be very proud of you. And I trust you can do it without me cocooning you. Now you have to trust me that I'm right about this, right? Every parent, right, with the kid or the two-wheeler says, okay, let go, right? Or let go of the pool wall, right? And what does every parent say? Trust me, right? Trust me. I would never let you do this if I didn't feel I already trust you, the parent is saying to the child. Now I need you to trust me, that I trust you. that I'm right in my trust of you. This is the moment God says to Avram, I trust you. Take my name. I have now associated myself with you publicly from now on and forever. Right? My name will be associated with you. Take it and run with it. That is Parshat Lech Lecha. All right, everybody?
All right. Have a
Shabbat
great
shalom.
Shabbos, everybody.
A reminder for those that have or have not yet, if you would like to sign up for both Nechami's Rosh Chodesh Society class or the JLI class, you can do so either at two acronyms, shalomchabad.com/JLI, that's for the class, the JLI class, or for Nechami's Rosh Chodesh Society class for the ladies, it's shalomchabad.com/RCS, Rosh Chodesh Society. Both are fantastic, but you have to register so you can get yourself a book, etc. All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Toda Rabah.
Absolutely. All the best.
Bye.